Okay, if we can start with, I guess, a fairly big question, but what are the main areas of IT modernization? If you can give us a sort of outline of what those might be.
Yeah, well, when you're thinking about IT modernization, I mean, the first thing you need to consider is the what's driving the whole modernization project, the business and the technical drivers. Because what you're trying to achieve then, in terms of whether it be time to market, solving technical risks, technical debt, or everything else, really changes your approach. And that also then means that the key areas that you're focusing on is the core application, the application itself, how you develop and deploy that application, the process, as well as where you deploy it, the infrastructure. So the key thing around this is it isn't a one size fits all. You really have to make sure that, depending on what you're trying to achieve, what you would then modernize and which pieces you modernize together really is how you get the outcomes that are desired in terms of solving the business problems.
Okay, and in terms of, as you outlined there, clearly there are specifics for each sort of organization and what they're wanting to do. But in terms of some of the pitfalls, are there sort of common pitfalls that people come across in terms of disrupting a modernization program? And is it possible to understand if there are common reasons why these things happen? What's going. So yeah, if there are some common ones, please outline where it might be going wrong or why and why.
Well, as I say, as you said there, in terms of the pitfalls that people often see is, when they don't necessarily know the full range of options. So they'll pick a solution and look for a problem as opposed to finding the right tools for the right task. So if you look at it and think, we need to rewrite the application. Application rewrites proven to be high risk, large chance of failure. And actually, you're not being able to reuse things like the core intellectual property that these applications have been built on for years. So I think the pitfalls in terms of not knowing what the best approach to use, maybe just trying to use a one-size-fits-all strategy. But the key thing around this is, how to be able to modernize and deliver the business needs without disrupting the rest of the business. These key things they have to live hand in hand. So you need to make sure that whatever strategy you choose, it has to be sort of in sympathy with existing systems to be able to reuse applications and data and make sure that there's a strategic path forward rather than just increasing the complexity of the overall application real estate.
And in terms of an IT modernization project, and clearly it will slightly depend on, depending on what the objective is, but I presume it's not as simple as saying, yes, this is where we want to get to, and steps 1, 2, and 3. So presumably there are some potentially conflicting or competing priorities. So again, I guess what might those be, and how does one sort of, if you like, prioritize them? I guess is the question.
If you say from a priority perspective, I think almost on every customer we talk to, modernization is one of their strategic initiatives. But at the same time, they're having to operate their current environments. So first thing is that what you're actually modernizing is a moving target. So you have to make sure that the approach that you're taking takes into account the dynamic changes that are happening. It has to make sure that they can bridge both the existing applications, the data, the processing logic, and make sure that works in conjunction with the new environments, the new systems, really bridging the old and the new. And the aspect around that is then, it's a journey that many partners and vendors have traveled on. But organizations really need that level of support from that expertise and the experience of how to blend those solutions together to make sure they can really modernize without disruption in their existing environment.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's not impossible for an organization to sort of come up with an IT modernization program, understand what they need to do, get the necessary solutions in place and do it themselves. But I suspect that there are folks better placed, i.e. they've done a lot of this themselves and therefore have a lot of experience to hand. So in terms of an external partner, I don't know if there are any downsides, but certainly what are the advantages of involving someone who's, if you like, bread and butter is IT modernization, understanding how it works?
Yeah, and I think as you said there, any modernization project is a balance of cost, risk, and speed. And which approach you take, it really comes back on what your understanding of the options are and what the ranges of capabilities there. So if you've got a complex application portfolio and knowing the right approach, whether it's modernizing it in place, maybe replatforming some workload, what you're really trying to do is find a partner that has experience of all of those different areas. Because otherwise, you've got a solution looking for a problem where everything looks the same. So with a partner that has a wide range of options, has an experience of working with multiple clients in the past, that have done these things, can really help this as part of a continuous modernization story. Because the aspect of modernization isn't a one-off hit. It's trying to make sure that there's a strategy, there's an approach that takes them into the future as well. So working with a partner really helps think beyond just the short term. I've identified something, ring-fenced it, I can go deliver on it, but they don't think of it in the broader context. And that's where some of the interdependencies of these modernization projects come into play.
And in terms, you've outlined there some of the things that the partner can do, but in terms of identifying the right partner for an organization, I suspect all the partners will potentially say yes, we can do that, we can do that. So how do you sort of look under the covers to actually work out who might be best placed to do what it is that you're wanting to achieve within your organization?
No, and that's really. I mean, as you say, there's lots of people. This is a fairly mature space, and lots of people have different approaches, which they'll obviously promote as the best ones. One of the key things is, as part of this, you're trying to get a partner or a vendor that's going to be a trusted partner for you for the long term, this long ongoing journey. But part of that, combination of what we just discussed, which was regarding the breadth of solutions and options, so we can meet them wherever they are on their modernization journey, but also the track record. What's the experience? How many projects have they delivered? Is it in the same vertical market? Is it the same scale? Do they have the expertise in both the existing legacy environments and the modern environments? What are the people that they've got? Do they have that depth of delivering tens or hundreds of projects? Because as you go through this, there's multiple approaches, but once you've seen, a number of different scenarios, every customer, every environment is different, and you have to be able to adapt what you're doing. So that track record of identifying a partner with lots of experience and a wide range of tools is really key to have someone who can be with you for that next stage of the modernization journey, as it is continuous, it's evergreen problem, and they really need to then be able to work on how that moves them into the future.
And are partners, is it reasonable to ask a partner to let you talk to some of their other customers just to understand how it is they may have helped them, just so you get a bit more confidence from the real world, shall we say?
Well, certainly, you say. I mean, one of the most valuable parts of any form of customer engagement is, besides them looking for case studies, many of them do want to actually be able to talk to people, other people who've been on that journey already. So often a CIO to CIO or CTO CTO conversation, and being able to offer up not just the static case studies and success stories, but to actually engage with it, whether that be on a one-on-one or as a group. And that's one thing we always try to encourage as well, trying to get people in different markets together to discuss their experiences, because as you're going through, what you'll also find is people who've been in these executive positions, once they've been through that journey, they have so much additional, not just on the technicality side, but the business aspects and how to get the stakeholders to come with them. And they also then want to, because they've been through it, they want to help their peers in terms of their approaches and what to avoid. So I think that's a really key thing, to make sure that there's a valid reference point and real people you can speak to give some evidence about what they can do to help you.
And we've managed to have a conversation about IT for I think a good 10 minutes without mentioning AI, which is clearly the I would say the elephant in the room, but I don't think it is, because everyone's talking about it. So bearing in mind what we've discussed so far, where does AI fit into sort of IT modernization? I guess everyone's used Chat GPT at some level, but I suspect AI has rather more to offer. So just your thoughts as to how AI fits into the IT modernization landscape, if you like.
Yeah, well, as you say, AI is everywhere. It's in everyone's talking about it. It's on mainstream media, and it's really going to make a significant change to the way that we operate in the world overall. When you come down to IT modernization, when you think about a lot of these environments, there's around, estimated around 800 billion lines of COBOL out there. So the power of these large language models, these AI engines, is the data on which it's been trained on. But that 800 billion lines of code hasn't been used to train these models. So when you're looking at IT systems, especially core enterprise applications that have been around for years, they don't necessarily have the same level of training that some of the other languages, more open source related. So part of that then diminishes slightly the value of what it provides, and the level of hallucination, the sort of things that get made up, limits its ability to really be able to do something in terms of modifying or transforming any of these applications as part of a modernization story. But when you realize that actually for augmenting regular work tasks, especially when you can couple it with things like deterministic tools, so you can actually be able to understand an application's architecture, but then make sure that you can call AI to give a brief overview or an explanation of what a program does. Or maybe help you generate some template source code to, if you've got trying to train new developers in the space, and generating things like test cases for application automation. So I think the key thing around this is that AI has a massive role to play in any project, but it's not the solution to everything. It really is a way of augmenting tried and trusted methods, supplementing what the individual, the human, the subject matter expert has, and supplementing that with the task that it can be very good at, the discrete task, and where it's adding value and really helping, especially with things like lost subject matter expertise in organizations, which many are facing, and helping with the productivity of the developers by automatically completing what they're doing, giving them insights into the application. So the productivity is key, being able to replace lost subject matter expertise, but it tends to be a supplementary part to what the developer is doing, as opposed to a replacement or a magic solution that can solve all the world's ills.
Okay, so I mean, AI, I guess we can call AI or at least the interest in AI, depending on how people then subsequently deploy them as a trend in terms of IT modernization. What else are you seeing out there in terms of what people are again? Are there some common things that people are doing when it comes to IT modernization, whether that's deploying technologies or just structurally within the organization making some changes?
Well, so AI is a key one, which is trying to find a way that it can help supplement it. But as we talked about with the modernization as a initiative being so key, there's a variety of different paths there. So some of it is around making sure that the engagement from their end customers, improving that experience, whether that be web or mobile, from a banking system being accessed through mobile applications. But that data, and to be able to leverage the data in these core systems and these enterprise applications to be able to do AI and machine learning to assist the interaction with developers. But when you're developing these applications as well, you really have to make sure, and we're seeing a lot more focus on productivity to be able to do things like the developer experience, the DevOps processes. But most of these are also leveraging the massive innovation that's happening in public cloud. So trying to work out how you can integrate the best of the existing systems by maybe exposing data, exposing services to be able to be reused in composite applications without disrupting the core business. So this key aspect of being able to modernize, improve the end experience, take advantage of all the innovation and capabilities that are going around without disrupting the core, and still then being able to modernize in place to ensure that you can meet the demands of the current customers and environments as you're extending those use cases to make sure that you're staying relevant in the market.
Okay, and maybe as we're finishing, in terms of how you measure the success of a I mean, clearly, if you've got a project and the end result is to get customer satisfaction up by 50%, and 2 years later you do that, that's great. But how do you begin to realize, at what point can you identify whether you're on that track, i.e., the beginnings, the start of success? And so is that obvious, or do you have to look quite closely to begin to think, yes, we're actually making progress in the right direction?
Yeah, well, I think with any modernization project, again, the immediate signs of success is how quickly you can deliver value. So, you don't necessarily be wanting to take on a modernization project where all of the benefit comes in year 3. that project might not see that far. There's going to be challenges that go through. So I think the key aspect around that is looking for the small wins, the quick successes, because part of that also changes the sort of mentality of the teams that are delivering it. So rather than looking at it from it's always worked this way or we have to replicate it, it gets a belief of I can see the value, whether that be improving the development process, whether it's delivering products with higher quality more quickly, or maybe moving some of that first workload into new environments like a cloud. So those quick wins really start building a momentum. But the first thing is, as you deliver quickly, there's some value that you get returned from it. So that value also then gives you the initiative and maybe the financial side to continue that journey. The one side of this is, as a modernization project is continuous, it's an evergreen project. As you're going through that side, it's, if you can define interim milestones that deliver value, it's a proof point. It gives the organization confidence that it's going to be successful, but it also lives alongside what they're doing. So the aspect of this as well is making sure that you are not disrupting the current business. It's easy to kick off a modernization project that looks though it's successful as a standalone part. But if it doesn't form part of that organization or it's hard to integrate, then you really haven't achieved those outcomes. So I think the key aspect on that is really to deliver fast, recognize the value, and then incrementally go through the project until you've delivered all of your outcomes that you designed to start with.
And in terms of how it is championed within an organization, is it possible to modernize your IT sort of bottom up? Can the storage, I don't know, the storage department, for example, say we know what we do, we're going to get some SSDs or whatever, make the primary storage faster, etc., and then somehow that filters up the organization, or does it have to come from the sort of board down, say we are going to modernize our IT and everyone needs to sort of tell me how we're going to do that? Just your thoughts as to the best approach to making sure that your project's going to be successful, or at least try and guarantee that.
I say it's a great question, because going back to the sort of conversation about what it is you're trying to achieve. I mean, from a bottoms up approach, you can take more targeted approach in terms of improving some of like the development tools, the DevOps processes, helping address the skills issues. So those are things that can be taken down from a bottoms up, doesn't require. But most organizations really are looking at it from a strategic corporate board level down, where whether it be cloud first or really looking at a complete modernization story, because the challenges and the ever-changing environment we're in, a lot of organizations have to modernize to stay relevant, whether that be disruptive competition coming into the market, the cost challenges, the way the digital economy is operating now means they have to do that. And these changes are then quite significant for an organization. So having executive support is key, having a aligned list of stakeholders, but you really have to get buy-in across the whole part of the organization, because you in a lot of these cases you are changing the way that people are doing their jobs. So having that executive buy-in is really key. But you can selectively improve different pieces, but for the biggest impact, top down, everyone in there together, be aligned, and really help deliver that side that making sure you've got the right success and results for that modernization project, but helps part of them being relevant, maintaining their relevance into the future.
I'm just wondering as well, just a thought occurred. I mean, we've talked about IT modernization. Would organizations be better maybe talking about business, the business modernization, in the sense that we're not just thinking that the IT folks can tell us what to do. It may be someone in the marketing department, because as we know, a lot of technology that's used elsewhere outside the enterprise, folks might be comfortable with and think, hey, we could use that inside, or they might just, go online and say, oh, I can get that up. Just your thoughts, I suppose, as to how to get the whole organization, and not just say it's the IT folks that are going to do this and they're not going to talk to anyone in sales or marketing or HR because they're the IT folks, will leave them alone. Just how you get that, well, presumably, which is a good thing, the collaboration across an organization.
Well, I mean, what we see with a number of our customers is, back down to a more agile process, which really breaks down some of the old barriers between the different departments. So you're really having the business analysts and the stakeholders working as part of the IT function, if you will, making sure that what you're delivering is aligned with the business requirements. And with the the modernization tools, the capabilities, and being able to delivering results more quickly, is you can validate it. So the whole aspect of this is really trying to make sure that you're delivering in more agile iterations or increments, because that way you've got stakeholders from the business really trying to influence what the outcome is. It doesn't necessarily get involved in how you do it. It really is in terms of making sure that you're doing the side. And because you'll have access to, it's quicker to create more environments to be able to build and deploy your applications. You've got access to a wide range of technologies, but still building on what you have. It allows them to really iterate through this process to ensure that, again, it's not a set up a requirement 3 years later, the IT haven't delivered because the requirements have changed and there was a disconnect. So what we see is the most successful organizations are really taking a more agile approach, integrated across all of the stakeholders in the business, and been able to deliver results early to validate and make sure that they're relevant to deliver what they're looking for.
And final question, I promise, because you give me a lot of time. Is there a rule or not in terms of whether you should modernize, if you like, in series or parallel? I do you take one little bit at a time and then another project, or can you, simultaneously run? Clearly, it partly depends on the resources you have, but is there anything wrong in sort of running 10 projects simultaneous, or is that a recipe for disaster? Just any thoughts as to how best to go about modernizing IT across an organization?
You say some of this does come down to the resources and the types of challenges they're facing. As a general approach, the recommendation and with the Rocket Modernization Maturity Model is really trying to help take an incremental approach. So especially if this, you're building up some muscle memory within your organization to be able to go through this, maybe with a partner, maybe with some other thing, being able to actually go through and incrementally prove those. Improve the process, make sure you can deliver those results. As you're going through that, you might have an end state, which is 3 steps removed. But delivering it as stage 1, proving it, stage 2, proving it, stage 3. As you're going through that, so as you're looking at if you take an application that may be running on a mainframe environment and you want to run it on the cloud, you might start off with the mindset is, okay, I need to rewrite this into Java. That's a huge change, very disruptive, very low success rate. But if you can reuse a lot of that application, modernize in place, maybe replatform that workload, extend that application by building a service interface, you can actually get incrementally closer to those end states. And actually you realize that you can realize the values much earlier. But once you've done one of those, the key thing is try to only change one thing at a time. You try to change too many, it just introduces more complexity and more dependencies. So that's on an individual project. So back to your question over the multiple projects, if you have the skills and you've got the resources and they're isolated, you could run multiple in parallel. But if they're interlocked, or this is the first one, it's definitely an approach to take a more cautious model to make sure that you're delivering without modernization, without disruption, and making sure that they can bring the enterprise with them as they're incrementally adding this value.
Okay, I mean, it's been great to chat and some brilliant insights and advice in terms of IT modernization. So Neil, I really appreciate the time you give me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.